If you were born a freak in the late 18th century to the mid-19th century, there were two most likely paths for you in life. Either you would be rejected by society, left to endure a life of isolation, or you were fortunate and captivating enough to join the world-renowned Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus and earn a lot of money globally. So join us for today's video as we explore the extraordinary lives of 15 circus freaks you won't believe actually existed. Number 15, Edward Mordrake. Edward Mordrake's story remains one of the most haunting and weird medical legends ever recorded in human history. Born into English nobility during the 19th century, he was said to possess a horrifying deformity, a second face on the back of his head. This face, far from lifeless, was rumored to move, grimace, and whisper to him at night. Edward claimed it tormented him with dark voices only he could hear. No one else could comprehend the agony he endured. He begged doctors to remove it, but none dared attempt such a procedure. Trapped with his invisible tormentor, Edward descended into despair. Eventually, unable to bear the madness, he took his own life, leaving behind a final note pleading for the second face to be destroyed before burial. Despite the vivid accounts, no confirmed medical records exist. Many believe the story is a legend passed through time, but for those who've read it, Edward Mordrake remains an unsettling reminder of how deeply horror and humanity can intertwine. Number 14, Millie and Christine. Millie and Christine were conjoined twins born into slavery in North Carolina in 1851. Connected at the lower spine, they shared one body but had two fully functioning heads. Sold to various owners throughout their early lives, they were trained as performers and branded as the two-headed nightingale. Eventually, they were reunited with their birth mother after emancipation, and they continued touring by choice. The twins were multilingual, could sing in harmony, and even played piano together. Their intelligence and charm earned admiration far beyond curiosity. They published an autobiography and used their platform to raise awareness for African American rights. Despite sharing a body, they had individual personalities, preferences, and opinions. They remained inseparable, both physically and emotionally, until they died in 1912. Millie passed first, and Christine followed within hours. Their lives were defined not by their condition, but by resilience and unity. Together, they navigated a world that sought to define them. Number 13, Mademoiselle Gabrielle. Mademoiselle Gabrielle was born in 1884 in Austria-Hungary with sacral agenesis, a condition that left her without legs and only one developed arm. Despite these physical challenges, she possessed striking beauty, poise, and elegance. She began performing in European exhibitions and was eventually brought to the US, where she was billed as the half-woman. Gabrielle wasn't simply a curiosity, she was fiercely independent and educated. She spoke multiple languages and was known for her polished fashion sense and confident stage presence. Her performances often emphasized grace and refinement, subverting the public's expectations of disability. She married at least twice and lived a relatively private life away from the circus later on. Unlike many performers of her era, Gabrielle maintained control over her image and career. Her story isn't just about resilience, it's about agency. She refused to be defined by limitation and instead cultivated an identity grounded in style, intellect, and strength. She was admired, not just seen. Number 12, Susie the Elephant Girl. In a time when differences were displayed more than understood, Susie the Elephant Girl stood at the delicate intersection of spectacle and selfhood. Born with hypertrichosis, her body was completely covered in thick hair, giving her a striking, animalistic appearance that drew massive crowds. But behind the fascination was a gentle, empathetic soul who longed for connection in a world too quick to judge. The circus gave her a kind of community, somewhere she could belong, even while her image was commodified and sold to the public as something exotic. Her story isn't just one of appearance. It's about how the world reacts to unfamiliarity. Susie forced people to reconsider what beauty looks like and where humanity resides. Despite the flashing lights and curious stares, she held herself with quiet dignity. Her presence demanded more than applause. It asked for understanding. And in doing so, she became far more than an act. Number 11. Krau Farini. Krau was born in Laos in 1876 with hypertrichosis, a condition that caused her face and body to be covered in fine, dark hair. Found as a kid and brought to Europe by impresario Guillermo Antonio Farini, she was marketed as the missing link in evolution, a living proof of Darwin's theory. Under the stage name Krau the Darwinian Wonder, she performed in scientific exhibitions and circuses, drawing enormous crowds. While her appearance was exploited for spectacle, Krau was articulate, multilingual, and known to engage with audiences intelligently. Behind the sensational banners was a poised, thoughtful woman who navigated fame on her own terms. She continued performing for decades and lived independently in Brooklyn until her death in 1926. Krau's story is often overshadowed by the fabricated narrative built around her. But those who knew her spoke of grace and resilience. She wasn't a link between man and beast. She was simply Krau, dignified, brilliant, and utterly singular in the world she never chose. Number 10. Stefan Bibrowski. Stefan Bibrowski was born in 1890 in Poland with a rare condition called hypertrichosis, which caused an abnormal amount of hair to grow across his entire body. By adulthood, his face was covered with thick, flowing hair, giving him the unmistakable appearance of a lion. He performed under the name Lionel the Lion-Faced Man, captivating audiences with his striking features and calm demeanor. Despite his unusual appearance, Stefan was soft-spoken, well-educated, and fluent in multiple languages. He often spoke openly about his condition, hoping to be understood beyond his appearance. His performances were dignified, often highlighting his intelligence and kindness rather than exploiting his looks. Over time, he grew weary of being seen as a novelty and eventually left show business to live quietly in Germany. Still, his image endured. Lionel's story wasn't just about spectacle, it was about identity, resilience, and the complicated line between admiration and objectification in the world of early performance. Number 9. Jojo the Dog-Faced Boy. Fedor Jevtichuk was born in 1868 in Russia and inherited hypertrichosis from his father and became known worldwide as Jojo the Dog-Faced Boy. Covered in thick facial hair and trained to growl and bark for shows, he became a key act for P.T. Barnum's Circus. Though presented as a feral man raised by wolves, Fedor was articulate, literate, and spoke multiple languages. Behind the animalistic facade was a bright and gentle man who disliked the degrading persona he was forced to perform. Despite the limitations imposed on him, Fedor traveled the world, earning considerable fame and income. His relationship with Barnum was both profitable and exploitative, like many performers of that era. Sadly, Fedor's life was cut short by pneumonia in 1904. His legacy is a complicated one. Part showman, part prisoner of image. Though he was branded a dog boy, Fedor's intellect and quiet dignity proved he was never anyone's beast. Number 8. Lucia Zarate. Lucia was born in Mexico in 1864 and remains the lightest adult ever recorded, weighing only 4.7 pounds at her peak and standing just over 20 inches tall. Diagnosed with Majewski osteodysplastic primordial dwarfism type 2, her body remained childlike even in adulthood. She began performing in sideshows during her teens, quickly gaining attention for her tiny frame and bright personality. Unlike others who were exploited, Lucia's parents managed her career closely and ensured she traveled comfortably, even with custom-built accommodations. Audiences were awestruck by her appearance, but those who met her remembered her wit and charm. Sadly, in 1890, while traveling by train through the Sierra Nevada, she died of hypothermia after being stranded in freezing temperatures. She was just 26. Lucia's life was brief but remarkable. More than a performer, she was a vibrant individual who lived with dignity. Her story remains a delicate blend of wonder, fragility, and humanity that sideshows rarely revealed. Number 7. Chang and Eng Bunker. Chang and Eng Bunker were born in 1811 in Siam, now Thailand, joined at the sternum by a stretch of cartilage and fused liver. They toured the world as the Siamese twins, becoming one of the most recognizable and enduring figures in sideshow history. Intelligent and business-savvy, they took control of their careers early on, breaking from exploitative managers and establishing their own tours. In the United States, they settled in North Carolina, married 2 sisters, and fathered 21 children between them. Despite sharing a body, they led remarkably independent lives, each managing separate households, alternating time between them. Though their condition fascinated the world, they often rejected pity and sought to be seen as individuals. When one brother fell ill in 1874, the other refused to be separated, even as it became clear he too would die. Their bond was physical, emotional, and unbreakable. Chang and Eng weren't just conjoined twins, they were pioneers of self-determination. Number 6. Joseph Merrick. Joseph Merrick, famously known as the Elephant Man, wasn't born to fame. He was forced into it by a world obsessed with appearances. Born in 1862 with severe deformities that altered his skull, skin, and bones, Merrick became a reluctant figure in traveling shows. To spectators, he was grotesque. To those who looked closer, he was refined, soft-spoken, and deeply intelligent. His life moved from brutal public display to cautious medical study, eventually finding quiet refuge at the London hospital under the care of Dr. Frederick Trevis. Merrick never begged for sympathy. He sought dignity. Through his letters and quiet conversations, his humanity pierced through the cruel misconceptions about him. His final years brought him peace, but also reflection. His body confined him, but his mind soared. Joseph's legacy remains one of the most enduring reminders of what happens when society finally listens beyond the surface. His life confronts cruelty with grace, and his memory demands that we do better with what we see. Number 5. Johnny Eck. Johnny Eck was born in 1911 in Baltimore, Maryland, with one of the rarest physical conditions ever seen. He had no lower body, no pelvis, no legs, yet lived a life far more accomplished than most. Despite his challenges, Johnny refused to accept pity. He trained as an acrobat, mastering incredible hand-walking stunts with strength and precision. Audiences watched in amazement as he moved fluidly across the stage, climbing ropes and balancing on one hand. But he was more than a sideshow act. Johnny was a painter, musician, and even a skilled magician. His fame skyrocketed in 1932 with his unforgettable appearance in the cult film Freaks, where he performed rope tricks and stunts with ease and flair. Johnny wasn't a gimmick. He was a performer in full control of his talent. He continued to tour and inspire throughout his life, proving that determination always outshines all kinds of limitations. Number 4. Prince Randian. Prince Randian was born in 1871 in British Guiana without arms or legs, but his spirit and talent defied every limitation. He became world-renowned as the human serpent, using his body with incredible dexterity and control. Despite his condition, Randian achieved self-sufficiency most able-bodied people never imagined. He could roll and light cigarettes using only his lips, shave himself with precision, and write with a pen tucked beneath his chin. His smooth movements across the stage resembled a snake's glide, further solidifying his title. Randian spent decades performing with Barnum and Bailey and in curiosity exhibitions. Audiences were stunned by what he could do without limbs, not just because of the novelty, but because of the undeniable mastery. He was fluent in several languages and known for his sharp mind and dry wit. Unlike many sideshow acts, Randian's presence wasn't defined by sympathy. It was earned through awe, performance, and an unshakable sense of self-respect. All right, guys, now let's move to number 3. Frank Lentini. Francesco Frank Lentini was born in 1889 in Sicily with something doctors had rarely seen: a fully developed third leg. The extra limb, complete with toes and a partial foot, extended from the right side of his hip. But Frank never considered it a curse. He transformed it into a career. At just 8 years old, he moved to the United States and joined the sideshow circuit. He wasn't shy about his condition. In fact, he embraced it with humor. Frank would joke that he needed more food than others because he had an extra leg to feed. He could run, jump rope, and even kick a soccer ball using the third limb. Audiences were stunned by his coordination and confidence. His performances were a blend of physical skill and stage charisma. Frank spent over 40 years touring with major circuses. What others saw as deformity, he turned into a signature act and proved that uniqueness can become strength when it's owned completely. Number 2. Annie Jones. Annie was born in 1865 with a condition that set her apart from birth. Thick facial hair grew across her cheeks, chin, and upper lip, and by age 5, she had a full, dark beard. P.T. Barnum immediately took notice and offered her family a contract. Annie soon became one of his most popular acts, known across the country as the Bearded Lady. But she wasn't just a spectacle. Annie was poised, intelligent, and charismatic. She refused to be defined by her appearance. Over the years, she toured the country, performing in front of enormous crowds who were drawn not just by her beard, but by her confidence and presence. She later married and used her platform to advocate for the fair treatment of performers in the sideshow world. Annie's legacy is more than facial hair. It's about self-worth, dignity, and challenging public perception. Number 1. Schlitzie. Schlitzie was born in 1901 with microcephaly, a condition that left him with a small head and developmental disabilities. But it was his boundless joy that truly defined him. His laughter, curiosity, and innocence made him one of the most beloved sideshow figures ever seen. Whether he was dancing, singing, or simply smiling at the crowd, Schlitzie radiated warmth. He wasn't just a performer, he was a light in the tent. He starred with the biggest names in the industry, including Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey, instantly becoming a crowd favorite. Audiences weren't mocking, they were genuinely charmed. In 1932, his fame exploded after his role in the film Freaks, where real sideshow performers played themselves. The movie cemented his legacy. Off stage, Schlitzie remained cherished by those who knew him. He lived with various caretakers who loved him deeply. His legacy isn't just about difference, it's about the power of joy in a world that didn't always understand him. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon in the next one.